1 month before 9/11. I was angry about it. My dad had worked a few blocks south of the World Trade Center. If we hadn't moved, I would have spent the day worrying if my father was still alive.
In June 2001, Ziad Jarrah, one of the hijackers of United Flight 93, started training martial arts Bert Rodriguez. Rodriguez began the first lesson by waving his fist in front of Jarrah's face. Jarrah smiled in embarrassment and confusion. He didn't know how to react when someone confronted you violently with a point.
My name is Yana Bukola. I was in Moscow when I saw the towers fall. I'd always worried about a terrorist attack happening to my parents. We thought America was the last safe place on earth.
On August 16th, Minnesota police arrested Zacharias Moussaoui, often called the 20th hijacker. Some FBI agents wanted his computer to be searched. Their superior said that the task wasn't pressing.
I think September 11th was a tragedy that our leaders made into another tragedy.
The terrorists were guided by a manual with specific advice about footwear. Tie your laces very tightly and wear socks to make sure that your shoes fit snugly on your feet.
2 weeks after the attack, 2/3 of Americans said they would give up some of their civil liberties in exchange for greater security.
After the attacks, President Bush told us to go shopping.
At 9:03 a.m., Stanley Kramer looked out his window on the 81st floor of the South Tower. He saw an airplane wing coming towards him with the letters U and A clearly visible. He took the moment to pray. The right wing tilted up slightly. Stanley Kramer survived 9/11. The collapse of the Twin Towers registered as an earthquake 2 miles away.
A man in a red bandana kept coming back upstairs to help people. He was a natural leader. Everyone who could stand now, he said. People listened. We now know his name as well as Crowley.
On September 12th, Parisian newspaper Le Monde ran the headline, "Nous sommes tous Américains." We are all Americans.
At approximately 9:57 a.m., Todd Wiener led an assault on the hijackers of Flight 93. Are you guys ready? He asked. Okay, let's roll.
Pastry chef Roberto Hernandez worked at Windows on the World. He was a father of 3 and grandfather of 2. He was photographed leaping from the 106th floor of the North Tower. I try not to think about his falling, his manner of death. I just think about the fact that he existed. At all, ever. That he baked cookies, cupcakes, muffins, birthday cakes for his family on his days off. Pastry chef Roberto Hernandez. It's a beautiful phrase.
Anthony DeBlas worked at Eurobrokers and his brother Jimmy at Canton Fitzgerald. Anthony survived. His brother died. Anthony completely approves of our war against Afghanistan. Each and every bomb has my personal blessing.
Walt Whitman said, "The United States themselves are essentially the greatest poem."
After the attacks, many people turned to poetry to try to find a language for their grief. This poem, by Adam Zagajusi, written years before the attacks, was published on the back page of The New Yorker on September 24th, 2001.
Try to praise the mutilated world. Remember June's long days and wild strawberries, drops of wine, the dew, the nettles that methodically overgrow the abandoned homesteads of exiles. You must praise the mutilated world. You watched the stylish yachts and ships. One of them had a long trip ahead of it, while salty oblivion awaited others. You've seen the refugees heading nowhere. You've heard the executioners sing joyfully. You should praise the mutilated world. Remember the moments when we were together in a white room and the curtain fluttered. Return in thought to the concert where music flared. You gathered acorns in the park in autumn and leaves eddied over the earth's scars. Praise the mutilated world and the gray feather of thrush lost and the gentle light that strays and vanishes and returns.
Shortly after 9/11, journalism professor Ann Carson crossed paths with a New York City fire chief who needed help writing eulogies for the men he had lost. Carson dramatized their work together in her play, The Guides. This is a monologue from that play.
Are you paint or covered in white ash? No? I guess you're okay. The first ring around the bell. Is your family okay? Did you lose someone in the towers or on the plains? The next ripple. Friends. Are your people okay? Next ripple. If someone died in the towers that you had dinner with once and thought was a really nice person, are you okay? Next, if you look at a flyer of a missing person in the subway and you start to lose it, are you okay? If all the flyers are gone one day, then they're gone. Are you okay? Is anyone okay? The first week I bought a coffee at Starbucks on my way to work, and the guy at the counter handed me my cup and said, "Here's your change. God bless America." And I took a breath and said, "Are your people okay?" And he said, "Only two missing. Only two." And I said, "I hope you can find comfort." Only people from Oklahoma, where I'm from, talk to servers in coffee shops. But at least there you can say God bless. Here, you don't know if they have a God, or if you have a God, or if anybody has a God that wants the same thing. Are you okay?
These are messages received at the Emergency Center of the Fire Department of New York on the morning of September 11th.
8:48:03 a.m. Caller states explosion at top of World Trade Center.
8:48:07 a.m. Plane into top of building.
8:12 a.m. Male caller states plane just flew into World Trade Center, possibly commercial airplane.
8:22 a.m. Female caller states World Trade Center exploded.
8:52:53 a.m. Female caller states big hole in right side.
8:53:28 a.m. Male caller states someone falling off building.
9:03:11 a.m. Male caller wants to know how to get out of the building.
9:04:14 a.m. Male caller states people trapped on 104th floor, back room, 35 to 40 people.
9:04:24 a.m. Male caller states trapped on 22nd floor, hole in the floor, smoke coming in, can't breathe. Male caller states he will smash window.
9:04:50 a.m. Male caller states 103rd floor. Can't get out, floor on fire, people getting sick.
9:05:03 a.m. Police helicopter reports air sea number 14, people falling out of building.
9:07:51 a.m. Second plane hit second building. Unknown extent of injuries.
9:08:02 a.m. Female caller screaming.
9:08:15 a.m. Female caller states World Trade Center in flames. State's fire department has to put it out.
9:09:14 a.m. Male caller states from the second tower that people are jumping out of the huge hole in the side of the building. Probably no one catching them.
9:14:52 a.m. Female caller states from the 100th floor, unable to speak.
9:17:20 a.m. Male caller states he can't get out.
9:24:54 a.m. Male caller states stairwell on 105th floor collapsing.
9:47:23 a.m. Man waving jacket. Man just jumped.
9:29:21 a.m. 20 people on top waving. They are alive. Please send help.
9:54:36 a.m. Male caller hears people crying.
America is a nation of immigrants. Yana Berekova is one of them. She was living in Moscow in 2001.
I remember that day really well. I was 10 years old. I was in Moscow, and Mom told me to defer to work that day. And I was bored out of my mind and was waiting for the day to be over. She was
No, just get in the elevator, come on. We held the door open as our coworker Andrew dashed in. As the doors closed, we looked at each other in disbelief. And then an eerie feeling came over me, as if I were dead, as if our tower too had been hit. Then the doors opened to the 90th floor. All that we heard were the screams of panicked employees. Lori and I pleaded with them to come into the elevator, but no one did. The doors then closed. Why didn't they go? This question haunts me every day. The doors next opened to the 78th floor, one of the main elevator banks on Tower 2. Lori and I dashed to the nearest elevator and shoved our way in. A woman inside screamed, "That's it, no more people." And as the doors closed, I turned around and saw two men scrambling to get in onto another elevator. When the elevator stopped at the ground floor, I looked to my left, and there was Liberty Street in ruins. Debris covered the sidewalk. I saw security guards ushering people away from the street. I heard someone on the PA system say that there were no problems with Tower 2, and workers should get back to their desks. The roar of another airplane engine hovered overhead. We watched in horror as another airplane dove into the upper floors of Tower 2. For a moment, the tower looked as if it were about to topple on top of us. We're trapped, I thought. This is it. Then, the tower collapsed onto itself. And I began my journey home on the FDR highway, distraught and covered in debris. And for the first time that day, I broke down and cried. I had survived a terrorist attack. I'm alive. God bless you all. I will recover.
The New York Times Portrait of Grief Project is an unprecedented documentation of the lives lost during the attack. More than obituaries, these are detailed profiles that capture the personalities of those whose lives were cut short on 9/11.
Joseph Grzilak, firefighting with research. Around the firehouse, they call him Joe Knows. Chief Battalion 48 in Brooklyn, Joseph Grzilak had been fighting fires for 28 years and memorizing trivia for even longer. During slow shifts, he could be found at his computer, researching everything from home repair to bowling strategies. He was a history buff who read 2 newspapers a day, breezed through crossword puzzles, and answered all manner of arcane questions for friends and colleagues, hence the nickname. We encouraged him to try out for Jeopardy, Chief Grzilak's wife, Joanne, said. He'd watch it, and most of the time he was right on the money. Chief Grzilak, 52, had a mathematical mind that benefited the men he supervised. He was very rational about fighting fires, Ms. Grzilak said. When the younger guys would ask him to approach a certain situation, he always came up with the best advice. When he raced to the World Trade Center on September 11th, Chief Grzilak took a binder full of research he compiled over the years about fighting high-rise fires. It was found, Mrs. Grzilak said, in his crushed car.
Maria Isabel Ramirez, taking care of Mozart. As a child, Maria Isabel Ramirez was always bringing home stray cats and dogs, but she could never keep them due to her mother's allergies. When Mrs. Ramirez got her own apartment 5 years later, one of the first things she did was go to a kennel and pick out a dog. She named him Mozart. He was black and brown, the vet called him Brindle, and he was part German Shepherd and part Pit Bull. She brought him home in her palm. He was so tiny, said her mother, Elise Cintron. She treated him like a little baby. She used to feed him well. He was a fat little dog. Her mother said that Mrs. Ramirez often asked what would happen to Mozart if anything were to happen to her. I used to say, "Don't worry about Mozart. He'll be fine." And he is. Mrs. Ramirez, 25, died in the elevator at 90 West Street, where she worked for Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, when the building was damaged by falling debris from the World Trade Center. Mozart, now 82 pounds, is in Orlando, Florida with Maria's mother. "I have to keep the dog," Mrs. Cintron said. "Even though I am very allergic to it, I've grown used to it. It's something I have to do for her."
she was always the one with the funny stories, said her brother and sister, Stephen and Stephanie Cole. Their younger sister threw herself into a series of hobbies, from needlepoint to painting to gardening, and she delighted in researching amusing information and emailing her findings. From the time she was 2 and learned to talk, she never shut up, Mr. Cole said. Personally or professionally, she'd tell you every single thing. She always made it interesting.
Christopher C. Amoroso, a letter to Sophia Rose. The other night, after Sophia Rose Amoroso had her bath, she looked at her tiny hands wrinkled from the bathwater and told her mother, Jamie, "I have Daddy's fingers." Her father, Christopher C. Amoroso, used to tell his wife that his 2 favorite things in the world were taking their 19-month-old baby for a walk and bathing her, and he'd wiggle his wrinkly finger at Sophia Rose. The baby is too young to understand that her father, 29, a Port Authority police officer, died when he went back into the World Trade Center's North Tower after leading a group of people to safety. She will not remember the thousands of people, including hundreds of police officers, that spilled out of Our Lady of the Star Sea Church in Staten Island for his memorial service. But she will always have the letter he wrote her when she was 10 weeks old. Sometimes it makes me cry, as I am overwhelmed by the joy I've been given by you and your mother. I want you to know that I consider myself to be the luckiest man to ever walk the face of this earth. If anything were to happen to me, I could honestly say I've known true love and happiness in my life. I've known that because of your mother, and now you.
Bert Rodriguez is a martial art expert who lives in Florida. He trains Ziad Jarrah, a hijacker of United Flight 93 in kickboxing. They spent 18 hours fighting and sparring and talking about God and life. Rodriguez is not ashamed for having helped a terrorist. He was interviewed by the German news magazine Der Spiegel in late 2001. The following words are all quotations from that interview. His bizarre, violent remarks present a shocking American voice on 9/11.
I used to have a lot of weapons in here. Knives, daggers, maces, clubs, snakes too. A rattlesnake, a cobra. I used to dare people to put their hand in and grab a snake by its head. Once you have it there, you own it. You can't do anything to you. It's all about overcoming your fears. That's what I teach. You don't lose against an opponent. You lose against your own fears. I taught Ziad Jarrah how to fight in 18 sessions. The first time, I put my fist in his face. He asked me what he should do about it. He kind of laughed. He was embarrassed. I told him, don't think when you fight. You got to be active. By the 10th lesson, he knew how to fight off a baseball bat. All my students do, or else they're in trouble. It's always a good policy to bleed your opponent. Always carry a knife. Try to cut him so that he sees when he's being cut. If you have a choice, under the arm is good. There's a lot of blood there. Zarah wasn't a fantastic fighter, but he was willing to learn. I respect him for that. I respect him now. Those guys had a cause. Those terrorists weren't cowards. That's nonsense. We don't have ideals in our country anymore. That's what's wrong with us. But those guys had ideals. You gotta find something worth fighting for. Most people just sit around, watch TV, and get fat. Not me. I run 21 miles a week. I get into the ring every day. This is my gut. It's a reasonable gut. I eat 1 meal in the afternoon, like predators do. Had I been on that flight, you know, Flight 93, I wouldn't have prayed. I wouldn't have called my wife. I wouldn't have conferred with anybody. I wouldn't have needed 30 minutes to summon up my courage. Maybe I would have whooped those guys' asses. Maybe
passed my black belt test like I promised. Were you watching? Did you see me Spartan Nationals?
I'm graduating in June. Will you clap for me?
I passed my driver's test. Isn't that scary?
Did you know Jonathan has the same colored eyes as you?
I don't remember what I wanted to be like when I was little. Do you remember? Have you seen my drawings? Haven't they come such a long way from the stick figures I used to draw?
Do you think I've made good friends?
Are you proud of my grades?
I'm playing volleyball, and I play center. That's what you've played, right?
I finally found the waterfall we used to hike to. Remember that?
I still haven't beaten our distance record for sledding. Think I'll manage it this year?
I skied the black hole. Did you see me? I still can't spell. Will you quiz me?
I read almost all the books you have. Did you like them as much as I did?
I stopped going to church. Does it matter?
When you get this, will you write back?
I saw Quest for Camelot again. Isn't it the greatest movie ever?
Do you miss me as much as I miss you?
Will you be at my wedding? Do you think I'm picking the right career?
Do you miss going out to breakfast?
Did you know I learned how to start a campfire?
I still can't catch any fish. Funny, huh?
Would you still take my door off the hinges when I slam it?
Hey Dad, why is the sky blue?
I've forgotten. What's your favorite color? Do you remember the beach? Could you teach me how to build sandcastles?
Have you read what I wrote?
Would you go hiking with me?
Do you love me?
Most of all, I wanted to ask, am I still your little girl?
Forever, Lauren.
Sitting down for math, I got my pencils ready. I was ready for this test today. Then the announcement came over the intercom. My mom was picking me up early. But I had a test, and as a 9-year-old perfectionist, that made me mad. I ran to the car and complained to my mom. I really wanted to take that test. And she said, "Didn't they tell you?" Turning on the radio. There was no music. Only a strange voice telling me that earlier that day, 2 planes had hit buildings in New York. I couldn't understand. Your Aunt Leo works there, my mom explained. So does your Uncle Olga. She turned her corner. Your dad worked a few blocks down. I couldn't understand. Not even a month ago, I was angry because my parents made us to move to North Carolina for my dad's job. Now, if we had still been in New Jersey, I wouldn't know if my dad was alive.
This is a poem by John Donne. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. And those whom thou think thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure, than from thee much more must flow. And soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls delivering. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy and charms can make us sleep as well and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die.
When I first read to participate in the 9/11 10th year memorial play, I was not sure if I could speak for all the families and victims of this massacre of epic proportion. However, I can say where I was in the significance trying to communicate with our friends and their family just to see if they were okay. It was pure chaos. My heart was broken to see all these people who have lost their lives in an act of such evil and hatred. The emotions of the images of people looking for their loved ones in the rubble have forever been marked in my heart for now and forever. As a New Yorker and as an American, I can never forget. As Americans, we can never forget.
Phil Clay is a Marine who served in Fallujah, Iraq. His essay, Death and Memory, was featured in the New York Times. This is a fictionalized account of a veteran returning from Iraq, first to Camp Lejeune, then to Wilmington, North Carolina, as he attempts to readjust to civilian life. This story, written in the graphic, profane language of warriors, reminds us of the enduring sacrifices made by our soldiers in the wars following 9/11, first in Afghanistan, then in Iraq.
So here's an experience. Your wife takes you shopping in Wilmington. Last time you walked down the street, your Marine on point went down the side of the road, checking ahead and scanning the roofs across from him. The Marine behind him checks the windows on the top levels of the buildings. The Marine behind him gets the windows a little lower, and so on down until your guys have the street level covered, and the Marine in the back has the rear. In Wilmington, you don't have a squad. You don't have a battle buddy. You don't even have a weapon. You startle 10 times checking it, and it's not there. You're safe, so your alertness should be at white, but it's not. Instead, you're stuck in an American Eagle Outfitters. Your wife gives you some clothes to try on, and you walk into the tiny dressing room. You close the door, and you don't want to open it again. Outside, there's people walking around by the windows like it's no big deal. People have no idea where Fallujah is, where 3 members of your platoon died. People who spent their whole lives at white. They'll never even get close to orange. You can't until the first time you're in a firefight, or the first time an IED goes off that you missed, and you realize that everybody's life depends on you not fucking up. And you depend on them. Some guys go straight to red. They stay like that for a while, and then they crash. Go down past white, down to whatever is lower than I don't fucking care if I die. Most everybody else stays orange all the time. Here's what orange is. You don't see or hear like you used to. Your brain chemistry changes. You take in every piece of the environment, everything. I could spot a dime in the street 20 yards away. I had an antenna out that reached right down the block. It's hard to even remember exactly what that felt like. I think you take in too much information to store, so you just forget. Free up brain space to take in everything about the next moment that might keep you alive. And then you forget that moment too, and focus on the next, and the next, and the next for 7 months. So that's orange. And then you go shopping in Wilmington, unarmed, and you think you can get back down to white? It'll be a long fucking time before you get back down to white.
Among the varied American voices responding to 9/11 was that of controversial journalist Hunter S. Thompson, who wrote the following essay for ESPN, the magazine.
Fear and loathing in America. It was just after the dawn in Woody Creek, Colorado, when the first plane hit the World Trade Center in New York City. And as usual, I was writing about sports, but not for long. Football suddenly seemed irrelevant compared to the scenes of destruction and utter devastation coming out of New York on TV. Even ESPN was broadcasting war news. It was the worst disaster in the history of the United States, including Pearl Harbor, the San Francisco earthquake, and probably the Battle of Antietam in 1862 when 23,000 were slaughtered in one day. And it was not even bombs that caused this massive damage. No nuclear missiles were launched from any foreign soil. No enemy fueled by religious hatred, and led by merciless fanatics on both sides. It will be guerrilla warfare on a global scale, with no front lines and no identifiable enemy. We are going to punish somebody for this attack, but just who or what will be blown to smithereens for it is hard to say. Maybe Afghanistan, maybe Pakistan or Iraq, or possibly all three at once, who knows? This is going to be a very expensive war, and victory is not guaranteed for anyone, and certainly not for anyone as baffled as George W. Bush. He will declare a national security emergency and clamp down hard on everybody, no matter where they live or why. The lid is on. Loose lips sink ships. Don't say anything that might engage the enemy.
Former poet laureate Robert Pinsky writes, "Of the poems I have seen about the events of September 11, one I admire is Frank Bedard's Curse, which stands out for its candid refusal to be nice or large-minded. The poem is a curse upon the perpetrators, the punishment being full consciousness of the sin. In the last two lines, the concession that a curse is not the most desirable accomplishment separates the poet from the blind complacency of the killers." Here now is that poem.
May breath for a dead moment cease, as jerking your head upward you hear, as if in slow motion, floor collapse evenly upon floor, as 110 floors descend upon you. May what you have made descend upon you. May the listening ears of your victims, their eyes, their breath enter you, and eat like acid the bubble of rectitude that allowed you breath. May their breath, now in eternity, be your breath. Now as you wish, you cannot for us not be. May that be your single prophet. Of your rectitude at last disenthralled, you seek the dead. Each time you enter them, they spit you out. The dead find you are not free. Out of the great secret of walls, the imagination to enter the skin of another, what I have made is a curse.
As September 11th passed into September 12th, rescue efforts at the World Trade Center gave way to cleanup efforts at what the media dubbed Ground Zero, though cleanup crews would simply refer to it as the pie. New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani vowed, "We are going to rebuild. We're going to be stronger than we were before. I want the people of New York to be an example to the rest of the country and the rest of the world that terrorism can't stop us." As cleanup went on, though, the dead needed to be mourned. Over 400 firefighters, paramedics, and police officers died that day in New York. Here is the final monologue from the guys, honoring one of those firefighters.
I am Nick Flanagan of Ladder Company 60. I'm here to honor the memory of our dear friend and brother, Bernard Capel. I want to offer my most sincere condolences to his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Capel, here with us today. I hope that these few words can give you some sense of how much we thought of Barney and of the light that he brought into our lives. What can I tell you about Barney? He lifted your heart. He had an unstoppable sense of humor. He was fun. He had a happy laugh. It rose out of him and took you along. For Barney, humor was as natural as breathing. But Barney also had an art, the metal worker's art. He recuperated things. There was nothing that he loved more than fatigued metal. Barney was a genius with metal. He could weld it, bend it, bolt it, drill it, you name it. And then he brought in creativity. He noticed something around the firehouse that didn't work very well, something that we just took for granted. And he'd think up a solution, like the huge generator, the Hearst tool that's mounted on the rig for car accidents. One day, Barney builds us a specially designed hand truck that fits right into the compartment. He saw something before we even defined the problem. That's the kind of guy he was. We depend on our tools. They're all important. When answering a call, sometimes you break through metal, sometimes wood. You need different tools. When answering an alarm, every tool counts. But it is also how you use your tools. Barney set up his own workshop in the firehouse, and it is a thing of beauty. A tool for everything and every tool in its place. Barney built that workbench himself and bolted it to the floor. I can tell you that workbench isn't going anywhere. If Barney built it, he built it well. Meticulous. Barney had a unique talent and he used it for the betterment of the company. Here was a guy who worked magic with his hands, respected his tools, and respected his job. The department can't ask any more than that. And yet he brought us so much more. He made us smile. And he still does, just thinking about him. He made us laugh. He made you feel good about who you were, about working with each other. But trust Barney to leave us something more earthy too. His careful hands built things to last. The tools that he built for us are still in the firehouse and we use them every day. They're with us. They're anchored. They're welded. They're bolted. They're grounding us. And every time we touch them, we are grateful that we could share his light.
As Americans tried to regain normalcy in their daily lives in the days after the attacks, the media was filled with messages of hope and resilience. Here is what Jon Stewart said to the nation on September 20th, 2001.
He said to get back to work. There weren't many jobs available for a man in the fetal position under his desk. So I come back here. And I don't see it as a burden at all. I see it as a privilege. Even the idea that we can sit in the back of the country and make wisecracks, which is really what we do. We sit in the back and throw spitballs, but never forgetting the fact that this is a country that allows for open satire. And I know that sounds basic, but that is really what this situation is all about. It's the difference between closed and open. It's the difference between free and burden. And we don't take that for granted here, by any stretch of the imagination. But the main reason I wanted to speak tonight is not to tell you about all the incredibly brave people that are in New York and in Washington and all around the country. But we've had an unendurable pain here. And I just wanted to tell you all why I grieve, but why I don't despair. One of my first memories is of Martin Luther King being shot. I was 5, and he was shot, and this is what I remember about it. I was in school in Trenton, and they shut off all the lights, and we got to sit under our desks, which we thought was really cool. And they gave us cottage cheese, which was a cold lunch because there was rioting, but we didn't know that. We just thought, my God, we get to sit under our desks and eat cottage cheese. And that's what I remember about it. And that was a tremendous test of this country's fabric. And this country has had many tests before that and after that. And the reason I don't despair is because this attack happened. It's not a dream. But the aftermath of it, the recovery, is a dream realized. And that is Martin Luther King's dream. Whatever barriers we've put up are gone, even if it's just momentary. And we're judging people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And all this talk about these guys are criminal masterminds, and they've gotten together, and their extraordinary guile, and their wit, and their skill, it's a lie. Any fool can blow something up. Any fool can destroy. But you democracy. We've already won. They can't shut that down. They live in chaos. And chaos, it can't sustain itself. It never could. It's too easy and it's too unsatisfying. The view from my apartment, it was the World Trade Center. And now it's gone. And they attacked it. This symbol of American ingenuity and strength and imagination and commerce and labor, and it's gone. You know what the view is now? Statue of Liberty. The view from the south of Manhattan is the Statue of Liberty. You can't beat that.
And so we remember. 9/11 goes on. We shall never forget. Behind me is a picture of a pear tree. It's a Calvary pear tree. This tree stood between the two towers up until September 11, 2001. During the attack, it was burnt to a stump, but it was still alive. It was driven to Author Rock Nursery in the Bronx, where it was nursed back to health. It grew from 8 to 30 feet. In March of last year, though, a storm uprooted the entire tree. Workers then put it back into the ground, and it survived again. A slither of light. It's a piece of hope. The memorial for September 11 will have this tree in the center of 400 swamp white oaks. And it shows us all that in the midst of all is death, life can still persist. We need as much hope as we can get. Thank you for coming out. Good luck, and God bless.